Well, welcome to DTV. I'm joined by one of the doyens of talent identification, Kevin Sheehan. And Shifter, great to be chatting to you again at the Draft Combine, the 22nd, of course. It's the first morning. How's it all shaping up?
Well, terrific, exciting time. Where else would you rather be if you're a young fella aspiring to get into the AFL and right here with all of the clubs looking at you? The Gold Coast Sun said just before they had about 15 people here, so there's over 200 scouts looking at the 80 players. So enormous scrutiny goes on to these young men, but look, they are athletes, they're footballers, they're performers. Even though they're young, they're used to a crowd having a look at them. That's why they play sport. They thrive in that environment, most of them. This is a wee bit different. You're not playing a game of footy, but gee, you're going to be analysed over the next 3 days like nothing before.
It's evolved a long way since Waverley Park and, of course, the AIS to now. How have you seen it sort of come this far?
There were interesting days at Waverley Park. It was that wet once that we actually ran the sprints on the concrete through the turnstiles. So they were humble beginnings to now we've got that high-performance hardwood floor that was built in Germany 5 years ago. It's now presents on the wing there at Etihad Stadium. It's a great amphitheatre that has been created there to see the boys perform their best sprints and agility, their repeat sprints, their beep tests are all done on that performance floor, and so it's quite spectacular. We've had some brilliant efforts over time. Billy Hartung a couple of years ago with his level 16 shuttle 6 beep test to set the all-time record, and that's in 20 odd years. That's a marvellous performance, and it was Brad Hill before him. So Hawthorn certainly value this camp. They've picked up some terrific athletes who are good footballers, and I'm sure that some of the performances here would have been taken into account when they chose those boys.
A few guys from Melbourne, of course, last year with Brayshaw and Petrarca and that coming through the ranks here. I mean, what did you make of some of the boys that went to Melbourne?
Well, Angus Brayshaw had a great year, but gee, he did test well. I must admit that at the start at 16 we saw him play. He won the MVP for Vic Metro, but he didn't seem to have the shape of an AFL player. Did that change over 2 years? Very disciplined young man that worked on his body and presented then as quite a good athlete. In fact, his speed was quite elite. Couldn't see that when he's 16, but it was there. So once trained up, he had that yard that was needed. But it was his skill set that really stood him apart from others. His skill set of reading the play magnificently, then his use of the ball, right and left, foot and hand, made him special. And I love the fact that he was a star of the national championships. It was Petrarca and Brayshaw that were ranked 1 and 2 in the Western Ferris voting right across the comp, and you've ended up with a pair in your football club, and there's going to be exciting times ahead from both those boys.
Now, some of the names to watch out for, and I guess in particular, Melbourne at this stage have got pick 6. Who can we sort of expect to be around the mark?
Yeah, well, you're probably thinking that the Shackies and the Wheaterings would be gone, and that's the way the clubs analyse it. So who might be there? Maybe it's an Aaron Francis. We're not sure whether he would go at 3 or 4 or 5, but he may well go earlier, but he's one that would be on the radar. Now, he's a boy from West Adelaide that starred for South Australia in the Nationals at either end of the ground. So 191 centimetre boy that takes great intercept marks, is powerful, agile, thumping kick, and he kicked 4 goals 5 in a game and taken 12 marks down in defence in another one. So his performance on the board was quite spectacular. He's played a little bit of senior footy already, so he's got a big, strong, mature body. So maybe it's an Aaron Francis, or it could be a Darcy Parish, who is a bit like a Shane Crawford. He's got the blonde hair and he flaps around as he gets in around the congested situation around the stoppages. He racks up possessions and uses it so well hand and foot. Can play across half back or through the midfield. So there are a couple of names to follow because they'd be around that mark, and we'll just see how it unfolds.
And towards the back end of the draft, I mean, I guess looking in the second and third rounds, a couple of names that we might even watch out for down that area?
Yeah, well, so who knows who'll be down the back. I like Jay Gresham's performances this year, a boy from the Northern Knights. He captained the Knights. He's an Indigenous boy that come up through the Flying Boomerangs program, and he's had a brilliant year. Just a prolific ball winner with a brilliant little sidestep and acceleration away from the stoppage. He can hit the scoreboard as well, so he's a boy that not talked about. They talk about him in the first round, and who knows where he might bob up. Another boy with similar attributes is Kieran Lovell from Tasmania. Again, performance on the board in Nationals was pretty special. He is small, at 174 centimetres, but he's got elite agility. I think he might test super well in that area out here at this weekend. His trials over in Tassie are outstanding. In fact, almost world record pace for that AFL agility run. But we'll see how he goes on this surface. But he's a boy that in the last game of the Nationals actually stood on his shoulders in a one-on-one situation as well to take the mark of the championship. So there's a bit more than meets the eye initially, because again, a smaller player, but he's got that spring, he's got that agility, prolific ball winner. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes, but he may well be there a little bit later on.
All right, mate, always great chatting to you, and have a great camp, and we'll look forward to seeing the boys unfold.
And good luck to the Ds. If you can pick up Petrarca, Brayshaw, those sorts of boys, you're going to be in great shape.
Thanks, mate.